Hey guys, it's MrCrayfish and welcome back to another modding tutorial. In the previous video, I showed you guys how to set up the development environment. What we're going to be doing in this video today is setting up the main class. So the main class is basically where all your initialization code goes for your mod. So this is where you initialize all your blocks, items, your not entities. You register them, so you register your tile entities, custom renders, and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a very important video. It's kind of a very important part of modding. So it kind of has to be its own separate video. Now, when we first set up the environment, it came with this kind of example mod. What we're going to do is click on the package here and just press the delete button because we don't really want that. Then what we're going to do is create a new package here. I'm going to assume you know kind of the conventions to creating packages. So if you have a website, you would do something like com.mrcrayfish and then the name of kind of your project. So this is going to be tutorial. Now if you don't have a website, you could do something like your username in Minecraft. So you could do like MrCrayfish and then the name of your mod. Something like that. But I'm going to do it proper, so com.mrcrayfish.tutorial. And click on finish here. Packages are basically for organization if you're unaware, but I'm sure you know that. Then we're going to right click on our newly created package and then go new class. Then we're going to call this tutorial. This is going to be our main class. And now we've got a couple of things to do. Above our class here, what we need to do is create a new annotation called mod. And then what we're going to do is highlight over that. Make sure it's imported. You can highlight over it like that, click import, or you can do like right click and then go source and organize imports. Now we need to add some parameters to this, so we need to create a mod ID. Now before we actually continue doing that, what we're going to do is create a new class here and call it reference. Inside that reference class, now we're going to create a bunch of final strings. We're going to make them static and public too. So public static final string, and the first one here is going to be our mod ID. So this is going to be the mod ID for your mod. Now how I name my mod IDs is maybe not necessarily the best way, but I do something like crayfish tutorial mod. So I use like the first letter of each word there. So my crayfish tutorial mod would be CTM. But it's good to have something more unique, so maybe I would do crayfish tutorial mod or something like that instead, just so it doesn't clash with any mods. But just for this, I'm just going to do CTM. We're going to create another one. So public static final string, and this one is going to be the name of our mod. So name equals MrCrayfish's tutorial mod. Create another one, public static, keep typing. This one's going to be the version, so this is simply just going to be like, I don't know, 1.0. Let's just do that. You could do something like alpha or something if you like, if you're working on like an alpha version, I don't know. We need to create two more. We need to create some variables for our proxy classes. So we're just going to split them off there. So the first one we're going to call client proxy class, and I'll get to later what a proxy class is, but for now just do that. And then this one here is going to be the server proxy class, and then inside here is basically going to be the location to that class. We're just going to leave them empty for now, and then that is it. So go ahead, save that, then go back to your tutorial class here, and what we need to do is type in mod ID equals reference dot mod ID, and then comma name equals reference dot name version, and then do a comma, version equals reference dot version, and then we also need to do something called accepted Minecraft versions. So this is basically what versions of Forge or Minecraft that this mod will work on. So we need to do a kind of a special syntax in here. This is using the Maven version like syntax. So if you want it to make it work exactly for Minecraft 1.9.4, we would just put square brackets, and inside of there we're going to put 1.9.4. Now I'll put a link in the description if you want to know what like the whole full like syntax for this is, because you can make it so it works on 1.9 and like above. I'm not sure how it works again, but we're just going to be making this work from 1.9.4, and if there is any updates, you can just create like a separate version which just updates this, so we would have like 1.10 in there eventually. So let's change that back to 1.9.4. We could also move this into our reference class here, which we might do, just for organizational purposes. So I was going to call that accepted versions, and then we can just use that instead of writing it or hard coding it there. Alright, so that's it for that mod annotation. So that's it for the mod annotation tag there. That basically just Forge will search for a class that has this mod annotation. That will tell it, okay, this is a mod class. It's going to have some methods in it, which are going to have like initialization code and such. But now we need to do a couple of other things. What we're going to do is create a public static tutorial. So we're going to create an instance of this class basically, and then just call that instance. We'll get to later on why we're actually creating this. It's used for like GUIs, but it's just best to do it anyway. Then it also needs an annotation called instance, and then make sure you import that. And you'll see just like up there are my imports, so make sure you have the right ones. They should be coming from like the Minecraft Forge package. Now we're going to set up the proxy classes. Now what the proxy classes are, from my understanding, is basically when you're initializing your code, if you only want code to run on the server, like you only need code to run on the server, you would put it in the server proxy class. If you want code to run in the client, on the client side, or only for clients, then you would put it in the client proxy class. Now how Forge works is you don't have to develop two separate mods, you use the one for both client and server, so that's why we have these proxy classes, so you can separate them basically. So we're going to create a new package here, so right click your existing package, go new package, and then just click after that and then do .proxy, press finish, and then inside of there we're going to create two new classes. We're actually going to create three, so we're going to create one called server proxy, create a new class in there called client proxy, and then we're also going to create an interface and call it common proxy. Then inside of client we're going to implements common proxy, and then do that the same with the server one as well. So save that. I kind of naturally always press Control S, so make sure you always like press that after kind of like any change you make. It's really kind of helpful so you don't lose any code or you accidentally close off your program or it crashes or something like that. Make sure you always press Control S like after like pretty much every change you do. Then we're going to come back to our mod class here, the tutorial class, and then we're going to create a new variable, public static, and we're going to use the interface here, common proxy, and then just call it proxy, semicolon at the end there, import that, and then above it we're going to give it a annotation called sided proxy. Then we need to tell where the client proxy class is and where the server proxy class is. So we actually need to go back to our reference here, and this is where we didn't fill in these strings here. So what you need to do is basically tell, right in like the absolute kind of like location of the proxy class here. So you need to start with your package name, which is, or in this case, is com.mrcrayfish.tutorial. Then our proxies are in the proxy package, so we do .proxy, and then we do another dot, and we just type out the class name, so client proxy. We're going to copy that over, and then instead of client there, we're simply just going to change that to server. Oops, spell it right. Make sure these are spelt right, or you're going to get some errors when you're initializing your mod. It won't have like a visual error, like in the IDE here, but once you load up the game, it might give you some spastic output. Then some parameters that this sided proxy annotation here takes is client side, and then we're just going to reference that client side proxy class string, and then we also need to do the server side. So there's a variable called server side, and then we're just going to reference the server side one. Then make sure you import sided proxy as well. I forgot to do that. Now lastly, we're just going to implement 3 methods which are called on initialization. So this is where we're going to be putting stuff like initializing blocks and registering them, registering tile entities. So we're going to create a public void pre-initialization, and then this takes in a parameter called fml pre-initialization event, and then we're going to call that parameter event. Import that, and then above it you just need to add a annotation called event handler. Import that. So this method here will be called before any kind of initialization. I mean, it's called first, basically. So this is where we're going to be putting like all our items and block initialization code in there. Then we have another one. We're just going to copy that method, paste it over here. This is just going to be initialization. This is kind of once you've loaded up all the items, do some more stuff. We'll show you why we need these different ones. Then we're just going to get rid of the pre in this parameter here, and then import that. So just fml initialization event, and then I'm probably 100% sure you guys know what this last one is going to be. It's going to be post initialization. So after everything's loaded, maybe you want to do some stuff. So in here as well, you're going to do fml post initialization event. Now there are some other methods that you can override, or not override, but set up that can handle like certain things, but these are the kind of 3 main ones that you want. There is like on load, there is like process, intercoms message. I won't go into that now because it's a little too advanced. It's kind of like allowing you to communicate with another mod on when they're initializing up. In case you have any sort of like APIs or something like that, but we're not going to be going into that at all. Now we are almost done. The last thing that we have got to do is go over to our package explorer here, open up the resources folder, and then what you want to do is you'll see a little file in here called mcmod.info. You want to double click on that, and then you just want to update all this information in here with kind of the same as what you got in the reference there. So for our mod ID, we're just going to do CTM. We're going to change this name here to MrCrayfish's tutorial mod. You can add a description, a useless description. The version here, I think this might rip it from like when you, I'm not sure, we'll just leave it as that. Then you can put like your author list here, so this is like an array. So if you have multiple authors, you could do something like put a comma there, add another person in. But I'm just going to put MrCrayfish there. You don't actually need the credits, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Sorry, Forge team. And yeah, that's pretty much it for that. If you want to test this out real quickly to make sure that everything is all set up. So what we're going to do is just inside each of our methods here, we're going to create a system.out that says like pre-initialization, pre-init, init, and then post, just so we can see that they are being called when we start up the game. And then if everything's all good and we press this run client button here, we should have no errors popping up. If we just scroll to the output here, we should see those messages popping up when the game is loading. Alright, so I found them now. Here we go. So as you can see, it called the pre-initialization method here. We have the initialization method there, and then the post. So there we go. We've successfully loaded up our mod. We can just check it in the mods list here. So as you can see, it says MrCrayfish's tutorial mod. We do need to update that version though. It looks like we did need to change that around. So yeah, for this one here, you can change it. Is it that one or is it? I'm not sure which one it is. We'll just like hard code it. So 1.9.4. Then the version of our mod was 1.0. So boom, there we go. So that's it, guys, for this tutorial today. Hopefully you enjoyed. We've got to do the walking before we can start doing the running. What I mean by that is we've got to do this kind of boring stuff before we can start adding items and blocks and all that cool stuff in. Now, if you've made it up to this point in the tutorial, thank you. It seems like you are really interested in creating a mod and excited to start working on adding in blocks and items, which should be the next 2 tutorials. So make sure you look out for them. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to keep up to date with all my latest modding tutorials, and I will see you guys later. Bye!